Inside Abode, ladies and gentlemen. How y'all doing? I'm your host, Dave Jones. This episode, I'm going to take y'all back. I'm going to go back to this Windermere Symposium, which took place about a month ago. Was that a month ago? I don't even know how many days. But before I get into this panel, I want to invite you to subscribe to the podcast. Listen, we got gems, especially with the market, the way it's going and things like that. I want to get into potentially some like different strategies that you might want to be able to take if you're a buyer or seller, or if you're an agent or whatever, like we're just going to make sure that we try to cover all the bases here. So what is happening in Abode land right now? Well, we're getting closer to our expansion finishing up. Just walked over there. It's really super dope. Shout out to Mrs. Jones and all the folks who've worked on it, who made that come to fruition. And what else we have going on? We just got back from Owner's Retreat, and that was really dope. Just got a chance to reflect and just kind of think about what we need to focus on moving forward into the market, into next year. Yeah, man. And then connect with other owners. It's always a really good time doing that. So really enjoyed that. Outside of that, man, let's get to this panel. So this panel at Symposium. So Windermere Symposium is held every other year for agents, with all the Windermere agents in the Windermere network to get together and, network and learn and do all the things, right? And so I was on this panel with a few other Windermere folks who are really great, and along with one of the founders of Close, a CRM, Dan Foody as well. And, we had a really good conversation about AI and where it's going and what we use it for and all those kinds of things. Matthew Ferrara was the host. Anyway, take a look at it. It's really dope, and hope you enjoy.
Well, before we get rolling, because we are going to be talking about AI, Michael, I thought it would be fun if I checked in with ChatGPT during the break. I wanted a few funny jokes, you know what I mean?
Well, let's hear them.
Well, I said, hey, can you give me a little real estate humor, ChatGPT? So here was its opening joke. Why did the real estate agent bring a ladder to the open house?
I have no idea.
Because they wanted to help their buyer reach new heights.
There we go. That's
Very
a good joke.
there. And then the second one I thought was extremely clever was, what did the agent say after seeing a house with no kitchen?
No kitchen. What did they say?
They said, that's a recipe for disaster. So, yes, I hope that our AI panel comes up with some
Much
things
better than those,
than,
I gotta believe it.
Than what our AI chick is. So, but anyways, I think our next panel is definitely going to exceed our expectations. And we might have to teach ChatGPT a little bit more humor here. So we're going to welcome to the stage 4 amazing people who are doing some really great things with AI and going to put them into common sense language for all of you, tell some stories, and hopefully encourage you to take advantage of the wonderful things happening in artificial intelligence. So please put your hands together as we welcome some of our guests to the stage for a conversation on AI. And joining us are... Let's see. All right, so Scott Steadman from Salt Lake City. Scott, good to see you. And Dave Jones on the end there, owner of our Abode company in Tacoma. Dan Foody. Dan, good to see you, my friend. He is the founder of Close, someone who spends a lot of time thinking about AI. And Rob Graham, of course, our manager of the Wedgwood office in Seattle. So put your hands together for this group one more time. All right.
Hey, Matthew, they're quite a good-looking group. Very dapper, I might say. Look at these gentlemen.
I mean, we could be doing a fashion show as an AI program. So, well, if their AI contributions turn out to be like the ChatGPT jokes, they might have to go into fashion.
They might have to.
I have no doubt this is going to be great. So, gentlemen, thank you for hanging with us and for sharing your expertise with our audience here. And I just want to kick off a little bit very quickly in terms of the whole AI excitement that people are experiencing right now. It often seems as if there's something going on, and a lot of people just don't know how to even get started, don't even know how to wrap their hands around it, and to just get acquainted with artificial intelligence, let alone use it at an extreme level. So I'm going to just start off with Rob here for a second. Let's talk about just getting comfy with AI, getting familiar with it without necessarily having to go overboard. What advice would you have for our audience?
Start slow, but
Start slow.
And you don't need to seek out AI. It's going to find you. It's already in everything you're using. Most of you have a cell phone in your pocket. Raise your hand if you have a cell phone in your pocket. Good. Those who didn't raise your hand, it's because you're currently texting someone.
They're not here. They're looking for their cell phone.
You already have AI. It's
Right.
affecting, it's not an individual isolated technology. It's a technology that affects all other technology and is evolving more rapidly than you can imagine. So you don't have to look for it. It's going to find you.
Then, that's a comforting thought, because in some ways we like the AI that we have. When my GPS in the car reroutes me around traffic, when the app tells me, well, bad news, your flight has been canceled, but good news, we've already reseated you on the next flight. These are uses of AI that nobody here would say, I wish I didn't have, right? But I do think that AI also is something where it comes to us intentionally engaging with it. It causes a little trepidation, a little anxiety. Dan, you do a lot of thinking about this all the time. Talk to us about why AI really shouldn't be worrisome to us in our day-to-day.
Well, so you think about the day-to-day life of people, and if I were talking to a room of real estate agents who are speed delete people, where they buy internet leads, you automate following up with them, and you never talk to them after you sell,
right.
I'd say you should be really worried. But that's not you. When you're talking about a relationship, nothing can ever substitute for a human relationship. So don't think of AI as anything affecting your relationships. What it's there to do, it's just like having an assistant. It's hiring an intern, having an assistant, something to take the busy work off of you so you can focus on that human touch of really building and fortifying that relationship with your clients.
I think that's a great metaphor as an assistant. And, Dave, that makes me think of something you said when we were having a prep call for this, which is you use AI as like your smartest intern, as the person, so to speak, the digital person, so to speak, who is able to perform a lot of the tasks that would otherwise consume your time. They need to get done, but they bring you even greater results than the best assistant you could imagine.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree our greatest resource is time. Like on Earth, time is the resource that we value the most, and so that's what I'm in an endless pursuit of trying to be efficient because I do so many different things. I think of it also as like an e-bike. I don't know if has anyone rode an e-bike before? So It's like an e-bike. I feel like Captain America on that joint when I first rode it. And I was like, oh, okay, so I can go up these hills, I can get somewhere faster. And that's how I use AI. It's not going to replace me, but it's going to help me. There's still the input. I still got to pedal, but it's going to get me to where I need to get faster. And I know you have a podcast, so Fanning has a podcast. I haven't wrote a podcast question in 2 years.
Right, exactly.
I used to spend
or show notes.
so much. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's so many use cases for it that have just saved me so much time over the years. And it might be 15 seconds today, but that 15 seconds over a year is a lot of time. So yeah, it starts to add up.
Makes a lot of sense. Scott, let me go to you then, because you have mastered the use of AI, but without having to become a programming geek. You don't have to become a coder. You don't have to, I'm old enough to remember when our earliest MLS systems, you had to use language in a certain way in order just to tell you if there were any new listings. And if you didn't, you got the famous syntax error prompts would come back
on the
to
blue
you,
screen.
right? But that doesn't happen with AI anymore. Now it's almost just like talking to someone.
Yeah, for me, I think we just need to humanize AI. So if I am looking for someone to help me analyze a subset of data, I will talk to AI and say, pretend that you are a data analyst, and I want you to analyze these 50 recent cells and spit out any sort of helpful information, average days on market, whatever I'm trying to prove.
Sure.
So it can be that way. And you can do this for anything. If it's a marketing manager, if it's most, I think, commonly used AI for all of us is listing descriptions. And how many of you can spot out an AI, right? Raise some hands, we're seeing that here. Yeah, I'm a little tired of that, but I think if we start using AI as whatever person we want it to be and talk to it that way, the outputs are life-changing and, as Dave was mentioning, time-saving.
So one of the key things that you've mentioned is that you almost have to give AI a persona for it to be able to do the work for you, right? If you just ask it something, it may not know what angle you want, and so it comes out kind of generic. But if you say, hey AI, pretend you were a market analyst. Hey AI, pretend you were an investor. Pretend you were a buyer of real estate today. Given some information, what might you do, say, ask, or
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing that you can do is, I am working on X, but before we begin, I want you to ask me 20 questions so that you can understand who I am, what I'm trying to accomplish, and to take on this persona. And as you continue to use AI, it is going to store in its memory. And one really fun thing that you can do with AI is, if you've been using it, is go and say, who am I? And AI will spit. I mean, for me, it was a little alarming last night. I did this, and it's.
Yeah, in Vegas we don't do that. I promise you, it's not a common prompt.
But as it continues to learn and it knows who you are, it is just an amazing tool.
And of course, AI, one of the most powerful things about AI is its ability to quickly access multiple sources of information. If anyone here has ever tried a public AI, Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, things like that, it pulls information from a lot of different sources. However, what truly makes AI effective for real estate professionals is when it can analyze relevant sources. So I'm thinking of clothes here for a second, where the AI is working from a very specific space with very specific data, so that the kinds of suggestions and recommendations it makes matter, and they match really what our intentions are. Tell us how that works.
Well, so I want to touch on one of your points there. If any of you have asked a question to ChatGPT, something like, tell me what events are happening this weekend in Seattle.
Right.
You'll get a beautiful list of events, but it might have been events that happened 2 years ago.
Yes.
And so AIs are trained on data that's pretty old.
Right.
So that's one of the pitfalls and things you need to worry about. But the kind of thing we do to help with that is we actually search the web for what are the events happening in Seattle, and then we use the AI to summarize that for you. So don't think of it necessarily as this is the way I get all of my data, but it is good once you have a lot of data to do things like summarize it, pull it together, and work from that.
And put it into communication pieces, put it into follow-up updates, put it into reasons to touch base with someone that we might not have spoken to for a while.
Or even spin it. So you can actually say, and take this information and prepare it for someone who wants to buy a home. So you think if a market is buyer-centric or seller-centric, you can actually adjust how you talk about something to get the outcome you want.
Right.
And use it to summarize with a particular goal.
So Rob, one of the things Dan is pointing out is that the more relevant AI use is to what we're trying to get done, not only the more valuable a contribution it can make for us, but also the more relaxed we can become with it. The easier it can be to just get slowly comfortable with using it at the right place at the right time. I remember my mom used to say, the right tool for the right job, and making sure that we don't approach everything with the hammer, as if it's a nail, because all we have is a hammer. You're advising agents all the time, and you yourself have a particular approach to making AI relevant and useful. How do you make it work for you?
Everyone who knew I was going to be on this panel is wondering why I'm on this panel, because I may be the least technologically advanced person up here. Correct? Where's Wedgwood? Why'd they ask him? There you go. Thank you. I think with any other technology, with anything else, and in a collaborative world, I think you need to be humble, identify the folks who are better at these things than you are, and then go ask them what they're doing. And the other great thing about AI is you can just dive in with both feet. Just start using it.
Right.
And as the technology evolves, one of the great things, you mentioned using AI effectively as an assistant, it will learn you. So based on how you've used it in the past,
Yes.
it will now start to customize responses and searches and things like that to what you've done in the past. So if I were to search today, I'd get a lot of raccoon videos and fantasy football advice because that's what I do on the internet most of the time. So, but each of us will have our own assistant and our own little AI bots that are customized to what we do on a regular basis. And so it'll start to customize itself to you.
And so in some ways, it might surprise us with suggestions and ideas that we might not have thought of because it is connected in the background to our data. I mean, one of the neat things about AI is that it can learn a lot about us in seconds. I could say, you know, hey, Copilot, take a look at, you know, my last 20 presentations and pull out the 3 themes I seem to be talking about a lot lately and create a summary. That's an area where the AI can quickly perhaps surprise me with what I've been talking about.
There's a little bit of a danger in that too. If you've ever go to your Facebook feed, you may have 400 people that you are Facebook friends with. You're going to see the same 25 every day.
Right.
Because it's learned those are the people that you've interacted with most recently. So you need to be aware of its biases as well.
Good point.
To pivot from time to time. Otherwise, you're never going to see anything that's different from what you've done for the last 3 weeks.
And we have to remind ourselves that even though it sounds like there's a person in there really isn't a person in there in a sense.
There isn't?
It can only give us back.
Really?
Kind of, yeah, it's a little...
I'm just impressed that he worked in the word raccoon.
Raccoon.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard that or not. I want
Can
to
we,
get
can we
back
turn
to
off Fanning's mic? Can we? Is that a thing we can do?
All right, so let me ask let me ask Dave a question here because I want him to give us a really good example of how AI is enabling him and obviously others to sharpen their skills, strengthen their abilities. You use AI to create coaching simulations, script and dialogue simulations. Tell us a little bit about this because I think it's something where for people who think that AI is just like Google but a little different, like a card catalog 3.0, it's actually not. It's actually got some ability to be able to engage back with us in a constructive manner. Tell us about how you're using AI in the coaching simulations.
Yeah, so I think hopefully you have a ninja group that meets weekly at your office, and so what I like to do for warm up, and whether people want to use it or not, is I have prompts that will allow you, because we all want to practice our BBSA conversations, right? So so you can actually give it a prompt to be a buyer or be a seller and come up with some objections that might be, you know, you just say like, hey, I'm trying to explain to a seller why it's advantageous to do X. And so it will act as if it's the person on the other end. And I tell you, it's really, really good. And it'll help agents find a way to get those talking points down so you can just practice those. And then at the end, because it's not going to replace a real person. It's different sitting in front of somebody and seeing and feeling their energy and getting that eye contact. But it will allow you to help with those talking points. And then you just start to get better at saying them, or you learn what phrases work and which ones don't, or how someone might respond to it. And then at the end, you sit down with each other and do the skill work with another human. So, I think it's very good in the sense that it can reason better than we think.
Can it be just as stubborn as a buyer if we want?
100%. Yeah. It asked some really good questions. Like when I did it, I was kind of low key. I'm just saying, like I was like started sweating under. You know how you start sweating a little bit when the objections start coming. Like it really, you definitely feel something because you don't know what it's going to say back to you. So it does simulate just a little bit. It's not a person, but it does simulate what you might have to say to some of those objections.
You know,
so
that happens to me every time I pull the lever and I start to sweat thinking, I'm sorry, that's a different algorithm altogether. But I really like that idea because in a lot of ways it might be an opportunity for people to brush up on their skills in between formal training. I was just thinking, Michael, you better get a QR code together, I think, because...
I need to.
Yeah.
I need to. You know, one topic on that, I do want to, we do this in coaching. Think about this. You can also take scenarios maybe that you had with a client that were tough and plug that scenario into AI and say, now role play that with me, but critique me as if I were a ninja selling agent. It understands the philosophy And then it will tell you where there were areas where maybe you could have done a better job. And we always need to learn from areas where we don't do so well, because that allows us to get better. So AI can really help you analyze that situation.
I do a sort of what would so-and-so do? So what would Captain Kirk do, you know? And I basically put in a scenario and say, what would so-and-so do in this circumstance? And it's really quite fun. And in some cases, it just creates some creativity. It creates an opportunity for you to think in different ways. You know, hey, role play this as if we were characters in The Hobbit. Role play this as if we were characters in a Harry Potter book. And again, it just gets the brain into a way of thinking that might open up options for thinking and growth. But at the same time, while it's fun and constructive, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that its job is to help us be better at our job, which is to build relationships, solve problems for people, add value, create an opportunity for them to grow. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask Scott a question here. So how do you take all the benefits of what AI can bring to you, but then ensure that the human touch part doesn't fall away? It could probably be very tempting, as you said, to just quickly copy and paste a description, copy and paste an ad, and yet you're especially on guard against making sure that you don't lose your voice, you don't lose your special perspective on things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of us have this fear that AI is going to replace us, right? Have we all thought that at one point? And I think what I would be more scared of is that myself using AI is going to become more efficient, more productive, and be better at my job than whoever is not using it. So, you know, I think the easiest thing to do is just to lean in and get started. And if you're not quite ready to use it on a business level, in our prep planning call, we talked about how I'm using this in my practical life. I'm going on a vacation to Oregon next year, and my vacations look different now. I have a 5, a 3, and a 4-month-old, and I know what I would do with just my wife going to Oregon and the things that we would like to see, but I had plugged into AI, hey, I'm going to be there for a week. I have a 5, a 3, and a 4-month-old. Give me a 1-week agenda of things that I can do. And the practical use of that saved me time. It's maybe going to save me money on giving me suggestions of discounts or, you know, whatever. But I think we don't need to overcomplicate this big machine that is AI. And when we dumb it down to how can this just help me as a person, it is extremely, extremely efficient and effective.
So let me continue that thought then with Dan for a second here. Let's talk about like a day in the life. Where are some areas where little bits of AI make a big difference in that efficiency and that ability to stay focused on what we do really, really well and perhaps not commit a lot of time, energy, and effort to those things that are, you know, operational in nature, the things that aren't quite as exciting and motivating to us end up on our to-do list, which really is a to-don't list because nothing on those lists ever get done, right? So how will AI make that change for us?
Well, so I'll give you an example of the way I often use it. So we obviously work as a team in our organization, and lots of people talk to clients. And so when I go into a client meeting, instead of having to read all the transcripts, read all the information, I just get a summary of it. And so Close actually does that. It can give you a summary of all of your past conversations. But it's a really quick way to catch up before you're getting into things. Because, you know, if you've ever tried to read 500 emails before going into something, it's not all that fun. But there's usually a few key nuggets that are important.
So that's nice because I think about it from the sales process. Preparation before a conversation is a big deal. So maybe I haven't talked to someone in a few months, or there's been just so much conversation and my mind is really busy. I could use it to catch up. I also could use it to debrief after a client conversation. So what did I learn? What do I need to keep an eye on? What were the key points of this? And add that to my notes so that I'm actually making the database even smarter. So the next time I ask, it gets it factors that into its answer as well.
We all work with so many different clients that you can't keep it all in your head. And so having your notes, having your history is a critical part of it.
Sure.
And then being able to just get the snapshot before you're talking with people is huge to make you more efficient.
Exactly.
And Matthew, on that, wrapping that back to relationships, so I think it's so important to remember this. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I think when we're making contact with our clients and we have all that data, how many of us just do a little research or just pull that content up very quickly before we get on the phone with somebody and make it about them versus making it about us? And I think that's where we can really utilize AI to save us time, as you're talking, and give us information that makes us more valuable to our clients because it's based on what they said the last time we communicated with them. And so many times we forget that. So there's really some unique tools that AI can really help us to achieve in building better relationships.
Let me throw out a question just in general here. Where should people start? If they want to just say, you know what, I'm going to just take it slow. I'm going to experiment with it. I'm going to practice, maybe get to know it as it gets to know me a little bit. What's a simple, easy thing that anyone out here who has not yet plunged into AI, either within Close itself, for example, or just in general, people can say, you know what, I'm just going to try this for a week and see what happens. Who wants to take a stab at that?
I'll stab. I would say just have fun with it. Just pick your favorite search engine or your favorite chatbot and just start asking it questions. If you are somebody who likes red wine, you can give me 10 great red wines that are similar to X, and then just take a look at it. I've done this a bunch of times with a variety of different questions, and it comes up with things that I wouldn't have thought of before.
Right.
And it's just an intro. Just get used to it. It's not another human. It's not going to replace you. Think of it as salt on your meal. It's going to enhance what you already are.
Right.
It's going to enhance what you do and how you do it and make you more efficient. But it can't replace you, and it can actually be really fun and
could be
expansive to you as opposed to restrictive.
I guess it could also help you identify where it's not so good either, right? So a simple thing would be ask it to write a bio for you. So I had it write a bio for me the other day. I have to find out where all the royalty checks from all the books I've written are because it said I'm an author of 4 books. And I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I definitely want the royalty checks. So it's good to see where it's making the mistakes. It's good to see where it makes assumptions. I mean, we're not asking it questions that its mistakes are going to be dangerous, right? It's not as if it's hallucinating on a level that people would be harmed in some way. But it's also good to just kind of see also what its sources are, where it's pulling information from. And where it may have a bias or where it may have a lack of information and it's guessing, if you will. So you have some fun with it, but get used to it in both directions. How else are we getting started?
One other really practical for everybody in the room. We all have websites. We all have our profiles on our website. Go cut and paste your own profile into a chatbot and ask it to rewrite it.
There you go.
And see what you come up with. That can be just a fun, easy way to get started. It's pretty practical and might be helpful.
Nice.
We've also built into Close the ability to build a bio for you if you don't have one or you want to start from scratch or just refine it. You know, basically we just ask you to tell us 10 points that you view are special about you. Because this blank sheet of paper is really hard for people to figure out how to write something, but just give us 10 bullet points about what's special about you. And then we'll write a draft of that for you automatically from just your summary of what you think makes you special.
Nice.
Can I add to that too? I also like the practice of like taking that bio, like that you mentioned that, because then also like seeing what your writing style is, because then you can prompt it to that writing style so it does sound like you in the future. I think that's a really good use case as well.
That's a good point. You can fine tune it. So you could say, hey, this bio is good, but rewrite it more formally, more informally, give it a Robert Frost sound.
Yeah, or even just asking it like, how do I write? Like, what would you say that this is? Like, how do I... Tell me what my writing style is.
So you could actually have it go read some of your past posts. Perhaps you have a blog or newsletter, something like that. You know, I think this also would be really good with testimonials, right? Why not have it read your testimonials and say, what is it that people really point out that they value the most about me, right? Especially when we consider what people often write in their testimonials have nothing to do with what we often talk about, right? No one has ever written a testimonial that said, oh my gosh, Scott was so great. He had the best lockbox in the business. You know, I'm so glad I could sign his document electronically. You know, no one ever says that. They enjoy us and really want to work with us for different reasons, but sometimes we forget about that, and you could just feed it a link to your testimonial page and say, what do people really like about me?
I mean, that's a good practice too, because everyone wants to be like big up sometimes. I mean,
yeah.
Let it celebrate you a little bit.
A little bit of pep talk for ourselves as well. So not bad. Scott?
I was just going to say, I think that it's important for all of us to remember that we are just in the beginning phases of this, right? And this shouldn't be something that we're scared of. We should lean into it, and getting it down to the very simplest terms. Go ask ChatGPT, what do you want to know about me so that you can better assist me? I'm a real estate agent. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. I focus on neighborhood farming. How can you help me come up with, whether it's a campaign, whether it's, data, whatever it is, but just talk to it like you and I are talking to each other right now.
Right.
And, I found that to be the most beneficial.
And interestingly enough, there are tools that we're already talking to all the time. Like I think about in my office, the Alexa that I have, I'm talking to it. It gets to learn how I speak. It gets to learn when I say play some of my favorite music, it's already interpreting that. And
then it learns from you and it comes up with suggestions. I mean, Pandora has been doing this for years, right?
Yes.
You might like this song. I do like that song. Thank you, Pandora.
Right? That's what happens when you open Pandora's box, Scott. Let me tell you. Let's talk for a moment about non-ChatGPT, non-sort of interface models here. There are other kinds of AI that are really helpful to people. People use AI in graphics programs right now. I use AI to chop up some video. So maybe I make 4 minutes of video and want to have it cut it down to a bunch of 30-second clips. In that case, I have used AI to provide a template for something, and then I go in and fill it in. These are specialty programs of AI. Do you guys have any favorite, specialty AI tools that you're using?
Well, Close.
Close, that was a good one. So.
Nice.
That was the softest softball I could throw you.
I was waiting for you.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. So.
To piggyback off on what you're saying, I think Opus Clips is a really good
Opus
one.
Clip.
For anyone that's doing any long or short form video, they can splice it up, and if you have 1 minute of video, like you're saying, chop it up into 10-second segments.
10 little segments, yeah.
Captions app is a great one that people are using, and to where it can. If you're not looking at the camera, it's going to take your eyes and make them look at the camera. So
yes,
more engaging,
that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. You could do your script over here, and then in the video, it looks like you're over there.
Well, now they're actually cloning
amazing.
you.
Yes.
Captions is cloning you to where after you've used it enough,
yes.
my persona can be on there.
But even on a gentler level, one of the nice features of these programs is they can improve your sound. So for example, I often record and perhaps there's a little bit of background noise or I hadn't tuned my soundboard just right, and you can flick a switch and say studio sound. And it'll give you a studio sound or street sound or whatever that happens to be. So these are algorithmic tools that are saving us hours of processing, cutting. One of my favorites in video takes out all the filler words.
Yes.
So occasionally we say, right, sure, etc. And if you're making a recording and you're going very quickly, you might not even realize that you're doing that. When you're done, you press one button and it de-ums the entire recording.
And adjust the video at the same time.
Yeah, so the video's clipped as it happens, so it's kind of nice. Dave?
Yeah, I think one of the most underrated pieces of OpenAI's ChatGPT is the store that they have. So there's a lot of apps and extensions that you can feed into it. So there is a Canva one, there is a spreadsheet one, there's a budget one. There's tons of them, and they specialize in certain things, and they'll give you the prompts. And so if you look up in the top, I think it's the top left-hand corner, there's a whole store of apps to link into it. So I think, yeah, if you don't want to veer too far out of ChatGPT, that's a great place to start.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, we are out of time, and even AI can't help us with that. But thank you so much for being here with us. Let's have a round of applause for our AI panel.